It started with a birthday tray hurled at my head, shattering not just glass, but every precious, painful illusion I ever held about that man. In the chilling silence that followed, I didn't cry. I calculated the years I'd lost. This isn't a story about a woman who was broken by heartbreak. It's about a woman who woke up, who burned the entire blueprint of submission, and rewrote survival on her own uncompromising terms.
Before we begin this story, let me know where you are listening from in the comments below.
My name is Maya Collins. I'm 32 years old. And what I'm about to tell you today will forever change the way you see your own family. It happened fast. The kind of fast that tricks your body into thinking it's still safe. Until the sound comes. The tray, sleek, silver, elegant, meant for cupcakes and good intentions, hit the wall like a thunderclap. A sharp, explosive clang. The 4 sent shards of glass from the centerpiece flying in every direction, like a grenade made of resentment. One piece, jagged, small, cruel, sliced across my temple. Hot, wet, immediate. Blood. I staggered a little, not from pain, not yet. Pain is always the second guest. What came first was something worse, a silence, a void. That awful split second where the world freezes around you, and the only sound you can hear is your own breath catching in your chest. Adam's face was still twisted with fury, but he wasn't yelling, not anymore. His shoulders rose and fell like a beast after the kill, temporarily satisfied. And Gloria, my husband's mother, laughed. Laughed. Not loud, not wild. Just that smug, restrained little huff of amusement people give when a dog learns a trick. She swirled her wine glass, didn't even look at me, and muttered, "Well, maybe next time she won't say no to her husband." I didn't move. I didn't scream, didn't cry. Just raised my fingers to the side of my face and felt the wetness. Red, sticky, undeniable. The cut wasn't deep, but it was enough. Enough to wake something in me. Adam stepped forward. "You made me do that," he hissed. "All you had to do was help my mother. Just $3,000. You spend that on throw pillows." It wasn't the money. It never was. It was the expectation, the entitlement, the demand that my kindness come with no boundaries. I looked at him, really looked. And the man I thought I married wasn't there anymore. Maybe he never was. "Adam," I said, voice flat, cold, terrifyingly calm. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." He blinked. The room went quiet. Gloria shifted, uneased for the first time, and I walked away. Past the mess, past the blood, past the woman I used to be. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the bathroom floor watching the blood dry in a line down my cheek, feeling nothing and everything all at once. That was the end of us, but it didn't start there. To understand the ending, you have to understand the beginning. 2 years earlier, when the sun still felt warm, and I still believed in second chances. Back then, I was 32 and rebuilding from ruins. New York had chewed me up and spat me out, bruised in ways that didn't show up on skin. I had just ended a long, controlling relationship with a man who never hit me, but made me feel like I owed him my existence. Emotional manipulation is harder to explain to people. There are no casts or bruises, just a voice in your head that no longer sounds like yours. So I moved. Austin first, smaller, slower, safer. I got a job at a regional bank, rented a studio with a rusted balcony, and told myself I was done with love. I didn't need saving, I needed space. Then came the townhouse, 2 bedrooms, exposed brick, creaky floors, and terrible parking. But it was mine, paid for with my own money, no co-signers, no shared titles, no debts. That house was more than shelter. It was proof I could build something solid after all the dust. And then, one Sunday afternoon, I met Adam. He held the cafe door open, smiled, said, "You look like you're deciding between a muffin and a bad decision." I laughed. He remembered my name the next time. He was charming, but not too much. Funny, but self-aware. And he asked questions about me, my work, my childhood, my coffee preferences, and listened. That kind of listening that makes you forget you've ever been ignored. I let him in, slowly. A first date, then a second. A picnic in Zilker Park. A surprise delivery of my favorite peppermint tea when I caught the flu. It felt easy, familiar. And after a year of emotional starvation, kindness felt like luxury. 10 months in, we got married at a courthouse with just a few friends. He moved into the townhouse. I handed him a key. It felt like I was offering him a piece of my heart, my home, my freedom, all bundled into one. At first it was beautiful. He folded laundry, left notes, called me M&M, because I was hard on the outside, soft underneath. We danced in the kitchen, made bad pasta, watched storms roll over the city with wine in our hands and hope in our lungs. But I should have known. Peace that perfect never lasts. It started subtle, a comment one Sunday morning while I was trimming the herb garden on the balcony. "You know," he said, "we should put my name on the deed. It's symbolic. We're a team, right?" I remember looking at the rosemary in my hand and feeling a twist in my stomach. The house had always been mine. It was my safety net, my history, my symbol of survival. I'd never put anyone else on the deed before, not even my parents when they offered to help. But I smiled, said, "We don't need paper for that. You live here, you're my husband. That's what matters." He smiled back, but there was something behind it. Not disappointment, something sharper, something patient. I ignored it. That was my first mistake. The second came soon after. His mother. Gloria Whitmore arrived for a weekend visit. She stayed 2 months. She criticized the wine I bought, the way I folded sheets, the impersonal way I kept my kitchen. She sniffed at my books, made jokes about my career, and told Adam once, loud enough for me to hear, "I always thought you'd marry someone more nurturing." Adam didn't defend me. He didn't argue. He just shrugged. "She's independent, Mom. That's why I love her." But I heard it in his tone. The fatigue, the quiet apology meant for someone else. Gloria didn't leave, not really, and neither did the small, growing feeling that something was shifting, that the air inside my home didn't belong to me anymore. The house I had bled for, fought for, saved for, it was being claimed inch by inch, not with force, with suggestion, with guilt, with family dinners I didn't agree to and bills I didn't understand. By the time Adam first asked for a small loan, just to help Mom get through a tough month, I was too tired to protest. And when I hesitated, he laughed and said, "You trust me, right?" I did. But that trust would become a currency I never agreed to spend. That night in our kitchen, surrounded by broken glass and broken vows, all of it became clear. It wasn't about $3,000. It was about ownership, control, the expectation that I would keep giving and forget where I ended and they began. But I remembered, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the ground beneath my feet again. Not soft, not safe, but solid. The beginning of the end had come, and I was still standing. I used to think the scariest thing in the world was being hurt. Now I know it's trusting again. 2 years before everything fell apart, my life was quiet. Not peaceful, not joyful, just quiet. Like the stillness of a house after a fire, the smell of smoke still lingering, even though the flames are gone. I had just left New York, left behind a relationship that didn't leave bruises, but bruised everything inside me. He didn't scream, he didn't hit, but he made me feel like nothing, like I was too sensitive, too much, too hard to love. He chipped away at me slowly, comments like, "Why are you so emotional?" or "You're imagining things," until I no longer trusted my own feelings, until I apologized for everything, for speaking, for breathing too loud, for existing. By the time I left, I couldn't remember what it felt like to trust my own voice. I landed in Austin with a suitcase, a savings account, and a vow: never again. I rented a tiny studio above a bakery. The scent of cinnamon rolls would drift through the vents at 6 a.m., and I began to set my alarm just to smell them. It was the first joy I had felt in months. I bought groceries in small quantities, avoided anything in bulk, just in case I had to leave quickly. I didn't buy throw pillows or candles. I didn't decorate. Everything I owned could be packed in under 20 minutes. That's what survival looked like to me. I walked to work, ate lunch alone, came home and played soft jazz while I read crime thrillers until midnight. My neighbors barely knew my name. I liked it that way. I didn't date. I didn't flirt. I didn't make eye contact if I could help it. Trust had become a foreign language, and I was tired of trying to learn it again. Then I met Adam, not at a bar, not on an app, but in the corner of a bookstore one rainy Thursday afternoon. He reached for the same battered copy of Mice and Men I was eyeing. Our fingers brushed. I pulled away first. He smiled. Great minds. I gave him a tight-lipped smile, the kind that meant I'm not looking for conversation. He didn't push, but 20 minutes later, we both ended up in line at the cafe next door. He paid for my coffee after I realized I'd left my wallet in my office drawer. "Rain's a mood," he said, sliding me the drink. "I owed you a coffee anyway for scaring you back there." It should have ended there, but 3 days later, I found a sticky note tucked under my car's windshield wiper. "Still owe you a story. Same cafe. Friday, 6 p.m. I stood in the rain holding that note like it might burn through my palm. I told myself I wouldn't go, but I did. He was already there, reading, not on his phone, not pretending to be interesting, just present. He didn't try to charm me. He didn't interrogate me with flirtatious banter. He asked me about the book I was reading, whether I liked my job, what kind of dog I'd have if I ever got one. He noticed that I stirred my coffee counter clockwise, that I flinched when people laughed too loud, that I waited half a second before answering any personal question, a reflex from too many times being punished for the wrong answer. He didn't point these things out. He just gently worked around them. I found myself wanting to hear his voice. I'd check my phone during meetings just to see if he'd texted. My chest would tighten when he hadn't, loosen when he had. It scared me. A month in, I let him walk me home for the first time. He didn't look around the apartment like he was judging it. He took off his shoes without being asked permission before opening the fridge. That night, we sat on the floor eating takeout and talking about nothing. He told me his father died when he was 16, that his mother raised him alone, that he always loved fixing things with his hands. I told him that silence used to make me panic. He didn't ask why, he just reached for my hand and held it. We didn't kiss that night. I think that was the moment I started to fall. We weren't impulsive, we weren't reckless, but something about him, his steadiness, his quiet humor, his patience, made me believe I could lean again, that I could build something again. When a promotion opened at my firm's Dallas branch, I took it. Bigger salary, more responsibility, a clean slate. He didn't hesitate. "I'll help you pack," he said. We looked at townhouses together, but I made it clear. I'd buy it alone, my name only. He didn't flinch. "You earned this," he said. "It's yours." When the deal closed, I walked through the empty rooms barefoot, running my fingers along the walls. This was mine. No shared names, no shared bank accounts. No one to take it from me. It was my fortress, my redemption. He moved in a month later, brought 2 bags and a toolbox. He cooked dinner our first night, burnt garlic bread and pasta that stuck together. I laughed harder than I had in years. We danced barefoot in the living room to Nina Simone, hung fairy lights on the patio, argued over whether mugs should be stored above the coffee machine or the dishwasher. It was domestic and real and beautiful. He called me M&M, said I was tough on the outside, soft in the middle. I didn't laugh, but I let him call me that. Still, I kept a packed bag in the back of the closet, kept all the house documents in a fireproof lockbox, kept a burner phone in my nightstand. He never asked why, and I mistook that for respect. Now I know. It was patience. He was watching, waiting. People think abuse starts with shouting, with fists. But sometimes it starts with warmth, with softness, with the perfect man. I told myself I was healing, but healing isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just hiding the wound better, and I hid it well. Until the day he asked casually, "Wouldn't it be nice to both be on the title?" Just a sentence, just a question, but something in my gut tightened. I smiled, changed the subject. And that was the first crack, small, invisible, but the beginning all the same. They say the first few months of marriage are the sweetest. For a while, I believed them. Adam and I got married on a crisp October morning in Austin, under a sycamore tree in Zilker Park. No guests, no cake, just him Me and a justice of the peace who smiled more than she spoke. We laughed through our vows like children playing grown-up. He said I looked like something out of a dream. I said I felt like a page out of a book I never thought I'd get to live. It felt effortless, gentle. Like maybe I had finally outrun the pain. He moved into my townhouse 2 weeks later. The first 3 months felt like a well-rehearsed melody, Sunday pancakes, jazz in the background, mock fights over towel folding styles. He liked his rolled, I folded mine in perfect rectangles. We'd laugh and compromise, or more accurately, I'd compromise. It was the quiet kind of love, the kind that made you believe the storms were over. We did grocery runs together, learned each other's coffee orders, and created a shared Spotify playlist titled Domestic Vibes. It was filled with Fleetwood Mac, Norah Jones, and the occasional Taylor Swift song Adam would pretend he didn't like, but never skipped. I started to exhale, but the thing about holding your breath for years is, even when you let go, your body doesn't forget the tension. The first shift came with a simple question. It was a Tuesday morning. I was late for work, holding a mug of lukewarm coffee in one hand, trying to fix a snag in my blouse with the other. Adam stood at the kitchen island, flipping through the day's mail. He didn't look up when he said, "Hey, I was thinking, maybe we should put both our names on the deed. You know, feel more like a team." He said it lightly, like suggesting a new color for the living room. I froze, just for a second, and then smiled, too quickly. "The house is already ours," I said. "You live here, that's what matters, right?" He didn't argue, just nodded, kissed my temple, and went back to reading. But something had shifted. The words hung in the air longer than they should have. It was the way he said team. Like I wasn't on it unless I gave up something. A week later, he asked again, this time over dinner. "Just think about it," he said, spearing a piece of salmon. "It's not a big deal. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is ours. That's marriage, right?" He said it like a joke, but his eyes didn't laugh. I nodded. I didn't respond. That night, I lay in bed listening to the hum of the ceiling fan, wondering why something that sounded like love felt so much like an invasion. It wasn't just a house, it was my fortress. The first thing I ever owned without strings, without compromise. Giving that up, even in name, felt like erasing the version of myself I had fought so hard to become. The change wasn't sudden. It crept in. He started leaving dishes in the sink. Forgot to refill the gas in my car. Took small bills from the grocery envelope we kept in the kitchen drawer and forgot to replace them. He'd shrug when I asked. "It's just $20. When I raised concerns about spending, he laughed. "You're so uptight about money. Relax, babe. We're not roommates anymore." That word, roommate, stung. Because some days, I felt lonelier with him there than I ever did living alone. Then came the night with the tax return. I was sorting papers, something that soothed me when things felt shaky. When I noticed a form Adam had filled out. He'd listed me as a co-signer on something without telling me. Used my social security number. I confronted him. Quietly, calmly. He blinked, confused. "We're married, Maya. It's the same now. Don't you trust me?" The words sliced. "No," I said. "It's not the same. You should have asked." He paused, his face still soft, tensed ever so slightly. Then came the smile, too quick, too smooth. "Sorry, babe. I thought we were building something together." That line echoed for days. Building something together. Was that still true? Or was he building something on top of me? Things continued. But I started to shrink. Not visibly, not all at once. Just quietly. I stopped playing music in the mornings. Stopped watering the plants I once talked to. Stopped leaving my office door open when I worked from home. Little boundaries I'd built were being softened, redefined, forgotten, and I was the one doing the erasing. Because that's what we're taught, right? Love requires compromise. Marriage requires sacrifice. But what no one tells you is that it shouldn't feel like self-erasure. Then came Gloria, Adam's mother, mid-50s, overbearing in perfume and opinions. She started visiting more often. Just for a few days, she said. But the visits stretched. She opened cabinets without asking, critiqued my spice rack, commented that my pillows were decorative but cold. She never said it directly, but the subtext was always the same. This house isn't warm because it isn't yours. One afternoon, while I folded laundry, I overheard her on the phone. She's sweet, but she's not really homemaker material. A bit rigid. I stood frozen with a towel in my hands. Adam said nothing, just nodded along. Later that night, when I brought it up, he brushed it off. You know how she is. She doesn't mean anything by it. But I did, because silence is complicity. And his silence felt loud. There were still sweet moments. Adam bringing me my favorite cookies after a bad day. Texting me, "I miss you," in the middle of a meeting. Pulling me into a dance in the kitchen when I was in a bad mood. But sweetness doesn't erase control. And affection doesn't cancel disrespect. It only masks it. One night, after Gloria had left, I stood in the middle of the living room and realized something terrifying. I no longer felt like the owner of my own home. The furniture was the same. The walls hadn't moved. But the air felt different. Like it belonged to someone else now. I didn't leave, not yet. Because I still believed love could fix itself. But the fracture had formed. Small. Invisible, maybe. But deep. And I knew, even if I didn't want to admit it, that once a crack starts in glass, it never disappears. It only spreads. They say when you marry someone, you don't just marry them. You marry their family. I thought that was just a phrase. A harmless one-liner people used in wedding speeches. Right after love is patient and before the first toast. I didn't think it meant giving my home away. One visit at a time. The first time Gloria arrived, she didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't knock. I had just gotten home early, a small miracle on a Thursday, and was halfway through removing my mascara in the hallway mirror when I heard the front door open. Not the jingle of keys, not a knock or a ring, just the unmistakable sound of a door unlocking. "Adam," I called out, startled. But it wasn't Adam, it was Gloria, in a floral blouse, oversized sunglasses, and dragging a roller suitcase behind her like she was checking into a resort. "Oh, Maya," she said, all smiles. "Didn't think you'd be home. Isn't this place just adorable?" She didn't wait for me to respond. She floated past me, her perfume heavy and floral, heels clicking like declarations across my tile floor. "I figured it was time I visited my son's new home," she said. "You know, see how he's living now." I forced a smile. "You could have called." She waved a manicured hand. "Adam said I was always welcome, and I hate hotels." That was how it started. She said she was staying for the weekend. She stayed for 10 days. The guest room became hers. Her toiletries lined the bathroom sink. Her laundry mixed with ours. Her voice filled every quiet corner. She brought her own wine, her own throw blankets, even her own brand of peanut butter, which she insisted was less processed. And she had opinions about everything. "Do you not use real butter?" she asked, peering into the fridge. "You don't own a casserole dish. White walls are so institutional, don't you think?" Adam would chuckle and say, "You know how she is." But that was the problem. I didn't. And she wasn't just being herself. She was erasing me. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and found my French press, the one I bought with my first bonus, missing. In its place was a clunky drip machine. "She replaced it," Adam said sheepishly. Said the other one was inefficient. "She?" I asked. He shrugged. "It still makes coffee, babe. No big deal." But it was. Because it wasn't just coffee. It was the first thing that ever made my Dallas townhouse feel like home. And now it was gone. She moved my mugs, reorganized my spice rack, refolded my towels. "It's just a better flow this way," she'd say with a smile. "You'll thank me later." She called me dear and honey in that way some women do when they're really saying bless your heart. And every time she touched something that was mine, a little part of me disappeared. She commented on my clothes. "You dress so formally, even at home." "You can relax, you know," she commented on my work. "All those numbers, all that stress. No wonder you don't have the energy to cook." She commented on my marriage. "Well, when Adam was little, he liked things a certain way. I guess old habits die hard." She laughed. Adam laughed. I didn't, because none of it felt funny. Meals became unbearable. She talked over me, corrected me, told stories of Adam's childhood that somehow doubled as reminders that no one would ever know him as well as she did. I tried to keep up, to smile, to offer her wine and ask about her day. But every conversation felt like a test, and every answer I gave was the wrong one. One night, as we cleaned up from dinner, I reached for a dishcloth and accidentally knocked over one of her new ceramic bowls. It shattered. The silence that followed was deafening. I bent down to pick up the pieces, muttering, "I'm so sorry." She hovered above me. "It's okay. Accidents happen when people aren't used to handling delicate things." I paused. Glass in my hand, words in my throat. Adam didn't say a word. Later that night, I finally spoke up. "She's taking over," I said, my voice low. "I feel like a stranger in my own home." Adam rubbed his temples. "Maya, she's my mom. She's not trying to hurt you. That's not the point." I was trying not to cry. "You said this house was ours, but it doesn't feel like mine anymore," he sighed. "You're overreacting." I wanted to scream, but instead I swallowed it, like I always did. Gloria's visits became regular, predictable, unannounced. Sometimes she'd stay a week, sometimes 2. Always bringing new suggestions, new decorations, new ways of doing things. She replaced my rug with one she found at a consignment shop. "Warmer colors," she said, "more inviting." She left sticky notes in the pantry with labels like, "Rearranged for efficiency." She bought monogrammed hand towels with her initials, and every time she did something, I waited for Adam to speak. He never did. One afternoon, I came home early and found Gloria wearing my bathrobe, the one my mother gave me. She sat on the patio, sipping tea from my favorite mug. "Oh, I hope you don't mind," she said, without a trace of apology. "Adam said I could use whatever I wanted. This robe is just divine." I smiled, walked to the bathroom, closed the door, and screamed into a hand towel. It smelled like her perfume. That night, I cried in the shower, not because of the robe, because of the slow, brutal realization that I was no longer the woman of this house, not in spirit, not in practice. I had become a guest, a polite one, a quiet one who tiptoed around the feelings of a woman who didn't even live here full-time. I started leaving for work earlier, staying later. I told Adam I was busy. The truth? The women's restroom stall at my office felt more like peace than my own living room. I'd sit there, phone in hand, just breathing. Because at least there, no one touched my things. No one moved my coffee mugs. No one made me feel like I was slowly being erased. One morning, Gloria made pancakes. She didn't ask. She used my pan, my eggs, my kitchen. Adam came into the room, smiling. "Smells like home, huh?" And I realized something. This wasn't my home anymore. It was hers. She didn't live here, but she had claimed it. And I had let her. One cabinet, one insult, one silent husband at a time. It was a Sunday morning when the first request came. We were halfway through breakfast. Adam with his eggs, me with my lukewarm coffee, Gloria with a mimosa she made herself because the orange juice was going bad. The conversation had been light, weather, news, a vague complaint about the price of gas. Then, out of nowhere, Gloria sighed and said, "I hate to ask, but I'm a little short this month." She didn't look at me. She looked at Adam. He shifted in his chair. "How short?" "$300, she said, almost flippantly. "Rent went up again, and the car needs new tires. You know how it is." I waited for Adam to respond. He looked at me. "Babe, can we cover her this once? Just this once." It was such a small phrase, so reasonable, so non-threatening. I nodded. "Of course." And just like that, a door opened. The next time, it was 400, then 5. "Just until payday," Gloria would say. "You two are doing so well." The tone was always sweet, always coded in gratitude. But underneath it was a current of assumption, like this was expected, natural. Adam stopped using his card. He started saying, "Can you Venmo Mom real quick?" Or, "She's waiting on that transfer." At first, I kept track. I opened a new tab on my budgeting spreadsheet. I labeled it GW, temporary, but temporary became ongoing. I remember the moment it hit me, the moment the asks turned into obligations. It was month 3. Gloria had come by again. Stayed the week, left without saying goodbye. Adam and I were sitting on the couch when he casually mentioned, "Oh, she needs help again. $100 this time, just to catch up." I didn't say anything at first. Then I asked, "Is she working?" Adam blinked. "She's between things. You know how the market is." "She hasn't worked in years." His jaw tightened. "She raised me. That was work." The guilt hit me like a wave, and I hated myself for flinching under it. So I sent the money, again. What surprised me most wasn't the asking. It was how quickly I folded. Because deep down, I wanted peace. I wanted quiet dinners and Sunday mornings without tension. I wanted to believe that if I just gave a little more, we could get back to what we used to be. I told myself, it's just money, and I had it, so I kept giving. But the more I gave, the more invisible I became. I started to resent my own bank account. Every time I opened the app, I felt like it was betraying me. Not because of the numbers, but because of what they represented. The slow erosion of boundaries I'd spent years building. Money had always been my way of feeling secure, of saying, I can take care of myself. I don't need to be trapped. Now it felt like shackles, except I was the one forging them. The worst part wasn't the dollar amount, it was the silence. Adam stopped saying thank you. Gloria started texting me directly. "Hey sweetie, can you Zelle me 600? Promise it's the last time. Appreciate you, darling. You're such a blessing." No mention of paying it back. No mention of me, really. Just the assumption that I would comply. And for a while, I did. Because I was too tired to fight. Because I didn't want to be the villain. Because no one ever tells you how hard it is to draw the line when the people around you pretend it doesn't exist. Then came the spreadsheet. One night, unable to sleep, I opened my laptop and added up the total. Every Venmo, every transfer, every petty expense I'd covered. 7,420. I stared at the number. It stared back like an accusation. I thought of what I could have done with that money. A solo trip to Prague, a home office renovation, a therapy fund. Instead, it was gone. Dispersed into an abyss of Gloria's expenses and Adam's silence. I confronted him the next morning. "I need to stop," I said. "I can't keep supporting your mother like this." He looked up from his phone. "She needs help. I've been helping. I've bent over backwards to keep this going, and she treats me like a damn ATM. Adam sighed. "Why are you making this a fight?" "Because I feel used." He stood up. "She's family, Maya. Family comes first." I stared at him. "Even before your wife?" He didn't answer. That night, I reopened the spreadsheet. I changed the label from temporary to sacrifices that were never enough. Then I printed the page and folded it in half. I tucked it into my journal with shaky hands, because something had shifted. And I needed to remember this feeling, this ache in my chest that said, "You are not crazy, you are not cruel, you are not selfish, you are just tired of being the only one sacrificing." A week later, Gloria made the boldest ask yet. $3,000. Monthly. "For stability," she said. "It's just until I get on my feet again." Adam texted me while I was in a meeting. "Can you wire Mom the $3K? She's stressing me out." That was the moment something broke. Not in anger, not in rage, but in clarity. For the first time in months, I didn't feel guilty. I felt done. That night, I told Adam no. Not with an apology, not with a compromise, just no. He stared at me like I'd just betrayed him. Like I had burned some invisible contract he thought I'd signed the day we married. "What do you mean no?" he asked, voice low but sharp. "She needs it." "And I need boundaries," I replied. Calm, too calm. "I can't keep bleeding so your mother can float." He laughed, a bitter, hollow thing. "You're unbelievable." I turned back to the sink, rinsing my hands, trying to hold on to my center. "You said this marriage was about partnership, but I've been carrying both of you." He stepped closer. I felt it. His presence wasn't warmth anymore, it was weight. "Don't do this, Maya," he warned. "Not tonight." "She asked for $3,000 a month, Adam." My voice shook. "That's not a favor, that's an arrangement. And if you want that, you can make it without me." There it was, the line, drawn not in ink, but in fire. He stood frozen for a second, breathing hard. Then, in one swift movement, he grabbed the decorative glass tray from the counter, a wedding gift from an old friend, and hurled it against the wall. It exploded. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, literally. Glass shards burst in every direction, slicing air, slicing space. One of them caught my temple. It was small, the wound. Barely a graze, but blood is dramatic, and it trickled fast, warm, down my cheek. Time didn't stop. It didn't slow down. But something in me shifted. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I touched my face, saw the red, and when I looked up at Adam, I didn't see my husband. I saw a man I didn't recognize. No, worse. I saw a man I had known all along but kept making smaller in my mind to make the damage feel less dangerous. You, I whispered, voice quieter than I intended. You just threw something at me, he stammered. No, I wasn't aiming, it wasn't. But I wasn't listening, because in that moment, I didn't feel fear. I felt clarity, pure, cold, clarifying. A silence settled into my bones, not the kind that follows chaos, but the kind that precedes a decision. I stepped forward, just one pace, looked him dead in the eyes, and said, Adam, you have no idea what I'm capable of. Then I turned, walked to the bathroom, and shut the door. Behind it, I pressed my hand against the mirror and whispered to my own reflection, this ends here. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel powerless. I felt awake. I should have known something was wrong when Gloria brought a casserole. She never cooked. Not once in the 3 years I'd known her had she willingly turned on an oven, unless it was to complain about how inefficient it was. But that Sunday, she arrived at our door with a glass Pyrex dish, aluminum foil crimped neatly around the edges, and a grin that pulled too hard at the sides of her face. Just thought we'd do a nice family dinner, she said. The way things used to be. Used to be? What era was she referring to? Before me. Still, I said nothing. Just stepped aside and let the enemy into my house. They came in 2s and 3s, cousins I barely knew. An aunt with heavy perfume and opinions on my kitchen. Even Gloria's old friend Debbie, who never missed a chance to say, I remember when Adam dated real sweet girls. The living room filled up like a waiting room for judgment. Laughter too loud, glasses too full. I stood in the kitchen, a bystander in my own home, watching it all unfold. And Adam? He sat on the couch like a man hosting a fundraiser, nodding, smiling, letting the room orbit him. Not once did he check in with me. Not once did he ask if I was okay. Dinner was served buffet style, with Gloria piling food onto everyone's plate like she'd earned the right. I barely ate. I couldn't. My gut had tightened the moment I saw the folder on the table. Blue, thick, labeled simply, property discussion. She waited until after the plates were cleared, until wine had softened edges and conversation had dulled to background noise. Then Gloria stood up, tapped her glass with a butter knife, and cleared her throat. I think it's time we talked business, she said. All faux charm. My blood ran cold. Adam didn't flinch. He knew. Of course he knew. Gloria opened the folder and pulled out a stack of papers. Now, Maya, sweetheart, she began, we all know you've done well. And this house, this beautiful house, is a testament to that. But marriage is about sharing, right? Every face turned toward me. I felt like prey. She continued, all we're asking, what Adam and I have discussed, is just a gesture. A small sign of trust and unity. Add Adam's name to the deed, half and half, like a real partnership. My pulse pounded in my ears. I'm sorry, I said slowly. What do you mean, all we're asking? Debbie chimed in. You wouldn't want to make things awkward over a little paperwork, would you? And Adam. Oh, Adam. He just sat there, avoiding my eyes, staring at a wine stain on the tablecloth, like it held the answers to everything. I stood up. Absolutely not. Silence. The kind that crashes into a room and leaves wreckage. Gloria blinked. Excuse me? I walked to the folder and picked up the papers. This is a quitclaim deed. It transfers half the ownership to Adam. Yes, she said, as if explaining to a child. I looked at Adam. You discussed this with her before discussing it with me. He finally met my eyes. I just thought maybe if we all felt more secure, I laughed. It wasn't pretty. You mean if you felt more entitled? That's when the shift happened. Gloria dropped the act. Her smile hardened. Look, honey, she snapped. You think this place makes you powerful. You think because you bought it before the marriage, it's untouchable? Yes, I said, because it is. A beat. Then Gloria pulled out another paper. Well then, explain this, she said, shoving a notarized document at me. At first, it looked like the same form. But then I saw it, my name, my signature, scrawled in ink, except I'd never sign this. The room spun. My knees threatened to give. I held onto the back of a chair as I reread it. Again and again, they'd forged my signature. Gloria stood tall, triumphant. Adam had it pre-filled. I'm sure you meant to get around to it. My voice came out low. This is fraud. Don't be dramatic, she said. It's your husband. As if that made it better. As if betrayal was expected between spouses. Adam spoke up then, voice brittle. Maya, it's not what you think. She got excited. I was going to talk to you first. After you filed it, I said, shaking the page. After you pretended I agreed? You're overreacting, he muttered. No, I said. I'm finally reacting. My hands were trembling now, but not from fear, from the thunder building in my chest. That night, after the crowd thinned and Gloria had stormed out muttering legal nonsense, I waited until Adam closed the bedroom door. Then I went to the office, opened the filing drawer, dug through until I found what I feared. 3 different versions of the deed, all printed, all dated, all with a crude imitation of my signature. He'd planned this, or at least entertained it, and that was enough. I didn't confront him that night, not yet. Instead, I sat in the dark with the papers spread across my lap and let the silence speak, let the truth sink in. He wasn't just enabling his mother anymore. He had become her, scheming, entitled, willing to erase my autonomy in ink if it meant cashing in. I looked at the walls of my home, the townhouse I fought to own, brick by brick, hour by hour, paycheck by paycheck. Every inch of it was mine. Every corner held memories of me, and me alone. They weren't trying to join me in this life. They were trying to replace me in it. I Googled the lawyer Adam had been texting when he thought I wasn't watching. A family law attorney, one who specialized in complex property division. He was preparing for war, and he didn't even tell me. I remember walking to the mirror and looking at myself. Really looking. I looked older than I felt. Sadder, sharper, like someone who'd been carved out piece by piece, until only the outline remained. That night, I didn't cry. I made a plan, because they'd crossed a line, and I was done drawing new ones to keep them comfortable. By dawn, I had a folder of my own, one labeled Evidence. Every forged page, every text thread, every transfer I'd ever made to Gloria. I wasn't just going to walk away, I was going to make sure they never touched this house, or me, ever again. I walked into Rebecca Hayes' office still bleeding on the inside. Not literally, not visibly, but in the way only a woman who's been gutted quietly can understand. The building was tucked off a side street in Oak Lawn. Unassuming, no gold plaques, no receptionist with fake smiles. Just a frosted glass door that read, Rebecca L. Hayes, attorney at law family. Property, protection. I had made the appointment 2 days earlier, shortly after discovering the forged deed. I didn't sleep those nights. I barely ate. I spent hours pacing my living room with the lights off, imagining worst-case scenarios. Adam suing me for half my home. Gloria lying under oath. My bank accounts drained before I could blink. But what scared me more than any of that was the idea that I might do nothing. Rebecca looked nothing like the lawyers on TV. No shoulder pads, no pearl necklaces, no cold, calculated gaze. She wore jeans and a charcoal blazer. Her hair was silver and unapologetic. And when she shook my hand, it was firm, but warm. Maya, she said, have a seat. Start wherever you need. I hadn't cried since the dinner, since the forged signature. But sitting across from her, I nearly broke. I think my husband is trying to steal my house, I said. She didn't flinch. She didn't offer false comfort. She just nodded. Tell me everything. I started with the small things, the subtle manipulations, the financial pressure, the shifts in Adam's tone, the red flags I'd painted white because I thought love demanded it. Then I got to the documents, the ones they printed, the ones they forged, the ones I hadn't signed, but bore my name in crooked ink. She listened without interrupting, only scribbling notes occasionally on a yellow legal pad. And when I finished, she said 5 words that stitched something back together inside me. "You're not crazy, you're cornered." We spent the next hour going through Texas property law. Rebecca explained calmly that, under Texas statutes, any property acquired before the marriage remained separate, mine and mine alone. But, she added, intent matters. If you ever acted like the house was ours, they can try to argue it was converted into community property. I shook my head. The deed's only in my name. Always has been. I've paid every mortgage, every tax. That helps, she said, but their goal is confusion, chaos. She flipped the yellow pad around and showed me what she'd written. Your power is your clarity. That's when she gave me the first gift. Not legal advice, something more valuable, perspective. You know what boundary means, Maya? I blinked. A line? No, she said. A boundary is a declaration. It says, this is who I am and this is what I will not allow. It's not selfish. It's not aggressive. She leaned forward. Boundaries are not selfish, Maya. Boundaries are self-respect. I felt something shift inside me, not a collapse, not a breaking, but a clicking into place, like I'd spent years walking in shoes that didn't fit. And for the first time, I felt the ground properly beneath me. From that point forward, we weren't discussing survival. We were building a strategy. Rebecca made a list of everything I needed. All mortgage and payment records, screenshots of bank transfers to Gloria. Every text where Adam or Gloria discussed money, copies of the forged documents' security footage, if any, showing who accessed my office. She asked if I'd documented the injury from the glass tray. I took a photo, I said. That night. Good, she replied. That stays in the folder. The folder, it had grown. What started as a manila file with a few receipts had become a thick binder titled Maya versus Manipulation. That night, I bought a new portable hard drive, 1 TB of digital defense. I spent hours scanning every page, categorizing emails, red tagging screenshots. I even recorded voice memos describing Gloria's behaviors, Adam's financial requests, the exact tone of his voice when he asked me to just help one more time. It was therapeutic, the way some people rearrange furniture after heartbreak. Only this time, I wasn't moving couches. I was building a case. At one point during our second meeting, Rebecca paused and looked me dead in the eye. You're not here for revenge, are you? I hesitated. No, she smiled. Good. Revenge burns fast. What you need is power, and power is quiet. Power is prepared. That line hit different, because I had spent weeks screaming on the inside. But what I needed now was silence, strategic, purposeful, deadly silence. In the days that followed, I shifted. I smiled when Adam was home. I played nice with Gloria over text. I even made dinner twice. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep them comfortable. And while they stayed in their bubble of delusion, I was archiving every move, every misstep, every careless email, every demand, every dollar. It felt less like betrayal, more like justice being born in real time. One evening, I found myself watching Adam sleep. His face was so peaceful, so unaware. And for a moment, a cruel moment, I pitied him. Not because he was innocent. He wasn't. But because he had no idea that I'd already let go. Not of the house, of him. I stopped asking myself why he did it. Why he changed. Why he lied. Why he let his mother take root in our lives like a weed that no longer feared sunlight. Because Rebecca had given me better questions. What do you want your life to look like after this? Who gets to stay in your peace? And what price are you no longer willing to pay for someone else's comfort? That night, after finalizing the last PDF, I closed my laptop with a soft click. Not a slam, not in rage. Just a quiet, definitive click. The sound of a woman who knew the next move was hers. I sat still in the glow of my desk lamp, fingers lightly pressed against the hard cover of the evidence binder. A part of me had wanted fireworks, vindication, a primal scream, but all I felt was stillness. The kind of stillness that comes after you've swept the floor, locked the door, and decided no one else gets in. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't someone's wife. She wasn't someone's daughter-in-law. She wasn't the fixer, the pleaser, the one who bridged everyone else's chaos. She was something else now. Prepared, protective, precise. A still ocean, hiding depth. A sleeping volcano, choosing silence. A survivor, rehearsing peace like a ritual. I didn't sleep that night. I rehearsed. What I'd say in court, what I'd say to the police, what I'd never say again to Adam, no matter how much he begged. Because now I knew. Calm is not compliance. Silence is not surrender. And healing? Healing is war. Quiet, slow, strategic, and entirely mine to wage. Adam's 35th birthday was on a Saturday. The week before, I told myself this would be the last attempt. Not the last dinner, not the last smile, but the final olive branch. I spent 3 days planning. Cooked his favorite dish, shrimp linguine with white wine sauce. Baked a chocolate ganache cake from scratch, not because he deserved it, but because I needed to know I had done everything right, one last time. I arranged soft lighting, played his favorite 90s playlist, wore the deep green dress he once said made me look like possibility. In my heart, a quiet hope clung to the edges. That maybe, just maybe, he would see me again. That maybe love would surface from under the debris of manipulation. But what showed up that night wasn't love. It was an ambush. They arrived in a pack. Gloria, of course, with her oversized designer bag, as fake as her concern. Debbie, Adam's cousin, who hadn't spoken to me in a year. 2 uncles I barely knew. 1 aunt with eyes sharp as scalpels. I opened the door and froze. There was no warmth, just entitlement wrapped in practiced smiles. Gloria kissed the air near my cheek. "Happy birthday to my sweet boy," she said loudly, brushing past me. The others followed, murmuring pleasantries that felt rehearsed. Adam stood behind them all, eyes unreadable, not surprised, not grateful, just waiting. Dinner was tight. They ate, they drank. Gloria made passive digs about the wine being a bit dry, and how she used to throw much bigger parties for Adam back home. Debbie bragged about her son's new job, pointedly mentioning how some people know how to secure a future. I laughed at all the right moments, nodded, poured wine, pretended this wasn't a performance, pretended I hadn't already seen the curtain fall months ago. Then Debbie brought out a folder halfway through dessert. "We wanted to make tonight extra special," she said, sliding it across the table to me. Inside, papers, legal language, real estate terms, a draft of a property transfer agreement. They wanted me to gift Adam 50% of the townhouse. "It's only fair," Gloria chimed in. "You know, to show commitment." My stomach turned, not from fear, not even from anger, but from the sheer audacity, the premeditated cruelty of it all. Adam hadn't said a word. He just stared at me, cold, distant. Like a man watching a chess piece he expected to move. "Is this what you think love looks like?" I asked, voice low but steady. Silence. Then Gloria laughed. "Oh, come on, Maya, don't be dramatic. This is just paperwork. Family stuff. This isn't family. This is coercion." Adam finally spoke. "Why are you making this so difficult?" I looked at him. Really looked. Not the man I married, not even a stranger, but a product of Gloria, of cowardice, of rot. "I'm not signing anything," I said, standing slowly. Debbie rolled her eyes. "Here we go." Gloria leaned back, lips curling. Adam stood, his face flushing. "How dare you go against my mom like this?" His voice boomed. The room tensed. "You selfish, ungrateful." The tray flew before I saw it coming. A silver serving tray, hurled. Not at the wall, not at the table, at me. It missed my face by inches, hitting the wall with a clang. Glasses shattered. A wine glass burst, spraying red across my dress like blood. I didn't scream. I didn't flinch. I just stared. The room froze. No one moved. No one breathed. Gloria gasped but didn't step forward. Debbie whispered, "Jesus." Adam stood there, chest heaving, fists clenched. And me? I felt nothing. Not fear, not shock. Just a bone-deep confirmation. This is who he is. This is who they all are. I walked to the wall, picked up a shard of broken glass, turned it over in my hand. It glittered under the chandelier. A perfect metaphor. I looked Adam dead in the eye. You have no idea what I'm capable of." He blinked. For the first time, fear flickered. Not because I would hurt him, but because I wouldn't beg, wouldn't cry, wouldn't stay. I dropped the shard on the table. Its clink was louder than his rage. I walked out of the dining room and into the kitchen. My hands were steady, my breath slow. I called 911, calmly, clearly. "There's been an incident involving domestic violence. My husband threw an object at me in front of witnesses. No shaking voice, no tears, just facts. Collected like evidence, measured like strategy." I returned, phone still in hand. They were arguing now, Gloria trying to smooth things over, Adam pacing, deflecting. But I was already somewhere else, already gone. I walked upstairs, took off the wine-stained dress, and folded it. I placed it into a paper bag, sealed it. Evidence, incontrovertible. Then I turned to my vanity, looked in the mirror. My reflection stared back, fierce and unsparing. "This was your last performance," I whispered. When the police arrived 15 minutes later, I met them at the door. I handed over the bag. I pointed to the broken glass. I listed the names of everyone who witnessed the event. Adam tried to speak, but the officer silenced him. Gloria started crying, loud, theatrical. But the police didn't care about her sob story. They looked at the bruised skin near my collarbone, from where glass had ricocheted. They saw the stain on my dress, the terror in the eyes of everyone but me. Because I wasn't afraid anymore, I was done. And when they handcuffed Adam and led him outside, I didn't watch from the window. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. Not for them, for the silence, for the after, for the woman I had become. I stepped outside into the night air, bare feet on cold stone. The wind kissed my skin like a promise. Inside, the last of their voices became muffled, irrelevant. I blew out the single candle I'd lit on the chocolate cake. "Happy birthday, Adam? Your gift? Freedom, mine." The morning after Adam's birthday, I didn't wake in fear. I woke in clarity. The echo of broken glass still lingered in the townhouse air. Red wine had dried to a crust along the wall, like a wound never bandaged. But I wasn't panicked. I was precise. I moved slowly, deliberately, my steps steady, my pulse calm. I packed the wine-stained dress in a brown paper bag, the same kind used for police evidence. I took photographs of the broken tray, the shattered stemware, the bruise already forming on my left arm from a flying shard. I didn't cry. I documented. There would be no room for emotion in what I was about to do. Only facts. By 9 a.m., I was sitting in a small, sterile office at the police station. Officer Gaines, middle-aged and weathered, asked me to recount the previous night. I told him everything, the words, the pressure, the violence, the witnesses. He typed quietly, nodding occasionally, eyes focused, never once doubting me. When I finished, he looked me in the eye and said, "We'll get this processed immediately. You've done the right thing." The phrase didn't bring comfort. It brought confirmation. I had done what needed to be done. Next was Rebecca Hayes. She was already reviewing my previous emails when I arrived. My documentation, screenshots, financial records, audio clips were neatly organized in folders. I handed her the most recent additions. Gloria's bank transfer requests, verbal pressure from Adam recorded last month, and this, I said, laying down the police report and injury photos. Rebecca flipped through each item with surgical focus. "This," she said, "is a complete arsenal. You're going to win this war before they even realize it started." I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Victory wasn't the goal. Freedom was. She slid a stack of papers across the table. Petition for divorce, request for sole property retention, emergency restraining order. Let's file all three. That evening, just as the sun set behind the trees lining our neighborhood, I heard a knock at the door. It was Thomas, my father. He hadn't aged much since retiring from the Dallas Police Department, but his eyes had grown heavier. He didn't ask for tea or step into the house. He looked at my face, the bruise on my arm, the hollow quiet of the foyer, and then he said, "Tell me everything." I did. I didn't spare details. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he nodded once. "You did the right thing. You have no idea how many women don't." We sat on the back porch. The Texas air was thick with heat and mosquitoes, but neither of us moved. I saw a case once, he said, voice low, back in '03. A woman walked in with the same bruises. Told me it was just a bad night. She went back. A month later, we found her unconscious. Another week and we would have been writing an obituary. He turned to me, eyes sharper than ever. I swore I'd never let my daughter become one of those reports. I squeezed his hand. I'm not. The next 3 days were a blur of actions executed with ruthless precision. I changed all the locks. Thomas installed a new deadbolt. Rebecca filed the emergency order, and within 48 hours, Adam was served with papers that barred him from coming within 200 yards of me or the property. Gloria left 2 voicemails. One feigned confusion, the other spit venom. I deleted both. Adam tried calling twice from jail. I blocked the number. Then, on the 4th day, a courier dropped off an envelope. Mediation papers. Adam was requesting a meeting to amicably divide marital property. Rebecca laughed when she saw them. You're not giving him a dime, Maya, not 1 square inch of that townhouse. That night, I sat on the living room floor, surrounded by documents. Our marriage certificate, the prenuptial he tried to revise. Bank statements showing years of slow manipulation. Deposits and withdrawals that always served someone else's benefit. And at the center of it all, the divorce petition. I signed it without hesitation. The moment my pen lifted from the paper, something inside me exhaled. It was late when I found myself in front of the mirror. I looked into my reflection, really looked. There were shadows under my eyes and a new line at the corner of my mouth. But there was also something else, steel. You were never weak, I whispered to the woman in the glass. You were just waiting. Rebecca called the next morning. Judge signed the emergency order. You're protected. We're clear to file for expedited property protection too. The word protected landed like a gentle hand on my shoulder. Protected. Not just legally, but psychologically. I had built walls, healthy ones, around my peace, and no one was going to bulldoze them again. That afternoon, Thomas returned with security cameras and new window locks. He didn't speak much. We didn't need words. Every bolt drilled, every wire fixed was a message. You are not alone. Not anymore. After dinner, he hugged me tightly, longer than usual. Keep the doors locked, he said, then paused. But don't lock away your strength. You've earned every inch of it. The following morning, I walked out to the porch with a cup of coffee. The breeze was warm, the sky painted in early hues of orange. And for once, I wasn't scanning the street for signs of danger. I wasn't calculating Adam's next move. I was present, fully, finally. I opened my inbox, half expecting another legal threat. But instead, a message from Rebecca. Court date is set. Property hearing in 2 weeks. This is your turning point. I leaned back in the porch chair, eyes closed, the sun warming my face. People think revenge is fire and fury. Mine was quiet. Not a scream, a signature, not a slap. A sentence, not vengeance, just truth. And the truth was this: I had never been broken, just buried, under lies, under guilt, under someone else's shadow. Now I had clawed my way into the light. And I wasn't going back. As I stood in the hallway later that day, keys in one hand, divorce petition in the other, I whispered something aloud. Not to Adam, not even to my father, to myself. I am not yours to damage. I never was. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of my empire, one boundary at a time. The courtroom was quiet, not in a tense way, but in the kind of way that feels like the end of a storm. A clerk clicked her pen. The bailiff sipped lukewarm coffee. Outside, Dallas traffic hummed like nothing had ever happened. Inside, I sat with Rebecca at my side as the judge delivered the final verdict. All claims to shared property are denied. The townhouse is recognized as a non-marital asset solely owned by Maya Collins. All pending financial disputes are dismissed. Restraining order remains active. This hearing is closed. That was it. No drama, no shouting, no grand defense from Adam. He didn't even show up. Just a verdict and silence. But in my chest, something cracked open, like a door I'd nailed shut years ago had finally swung wide. The day I walked back into my townhouse, I noticed everything looked brighter. Maybe it was the way the sunlight hit the kitchen tiles. Or maybe it was the absence of fear, of pretending, of walking on eggshells. Gloria had vanished after the ruling. I heard rumors she'd moved back to Baton Rouge, cut ties even with Adam. He was reportedly jobless, possibly attending anger management through court order. I didn't follow up. I didn't need to. I had nothing left to chase in that wreckage. But healing isn't a movie montage. It's a series of silent mornings. For weeks I woke up early, watered the succulents on the windowsill, cooked breakfast for one. I began journaling. Nothing poetic, just honest. Bullet points about how I felt. Notes to self about boundaries. Some mornings, I sat on the floor and cried for no specific reason. Other mornings, I danced barefoot to Nina Simone with a cup of coffee in hand. That's how healing looked. Uneven, unfiltered, uninstagrammable. It wasn't about reinventing myself. It was about remembering who I was before I bent myself to fit someone else's idea of love. One Sunday, I took out the old silver tray. It was almost identical to the one Adam had shattered. I placed it on the kitchen table, sat down in front of it, and stared. I thought about what that object represented: power, intimidation, spectacle. A moment frozen in time when someone I loved proved he would rather see me bleed than hear me say no. Then I stood, walked to the trash, and dropped it in. That was the funeral, not for the marriage, for the idea that I had to carry pain as proof of survival. A month later, I received an email. It was from Adam. He was in a recovery program, court-mandated. The tone was restrained, like someone learning how to speak without rage for the first time. He said he was sorry for the manipulation, for the silence when I needed protection, for the glass tray. He didn't ask for forgiveness, just acknowledgement. I didn't reply, but I read it twice. The second time, I didn't cry. The third time, I whispered, "I release you." Not for him, for me, because I was tired of being haunted, tired of carrying a history that didn't belong to my future. That day, I walked to White Orchid Women's Shelter. It sat 2 blocks from my old office building. I stepped inside, asked to speak with the director, and offered my services as a volunteer financial advisor. Budgeting, credit recovery, basic independence training, I explained. She smiled through glassy eyes. "You speak like someone who understands." "I do." The first woman I mentored was named Carla, 37, mother of 2. Her voice cracked when she introduced herself. Her eyes never stayed still. When I looked at her, I saw a version of myself 3 years ago. She said, "I don't know how to budget anything. My ex handled it all." I smiled gently. Then that ends today. Over the next 4 weeks, we met every Thursday. Sometimes we talked spreadsheets. Sometimes we talked about fear. One afternoon, she finally looked me in the eye and said, "I opened my own account yesterday. My name's on it. Just mine." That night, I cried harder than I had after my own trial. Healing, I've learned, is communal. You pull yourself up, yes, but then you reach back. On the 1-year anniversary of the glass tray incident, I sat at my writing desk and wrote a letter, not to Adam, not to Gloria, to the version of myself who stayed quiet for too long. "Dear you, I see you. You tried. You held on too long because you believed in the version of him that existed for 5 minutes in a grocery store aisle or at a birthday dinner before the yelling began. But you also got out. That was brave. Now, I carry you with me. Not as shame, but as strength. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what you built after, and you built me." I folded the letter and slipped it into a journal. Then I lit a candle and whispered, "Thank you. Now rest." There's a misconception that revenge looks like flames and fury. But for me, it looked like stillness. It looked like waking up without dread. It looked like seeing a fork in the sink and not wondering if it would be used as a weapon. It looked like sitting in my living room, sunlight on my legs, knowing I never again had to explain why I said no. One evening, I lit a single candle. Not for romance, not for a vigil, for gratitude. I placed it in the center of the coffee table, stared at its flickering light, and said out loud, "Kindness is good, but boundaries are sacred." That's what I want others to know. You don't have to fight to be free. You don't have to forgive them out loud. You just have to stop carrying them with you. Let them rot where they fell. You rise. You live. I'm Maya Collins. I once thought survival meant staying quiet. Now I know it means speaking gently but firmly for yourself. I forgave Adam, but only after I left him behind. Because real freedom isn't just the absence of chains. It's knowing you'll never wear them again. And that is the most dangerous thing I've ever become. Untouchable, unbroken, free. Not everyone among us dares to rise amid the ruins. Not everyone is brave enough to say, I forgive. Not because they deserve it, but because we deserve to be free. Maya's story is not a tale of cold-blooded revenge. It is the manifesto of a woman who once stayed silent, now choosing to speak through action, through the law, and through kindness toward herself. She did not reclaim justice by screaming. She chose to walk away, leaving the door of the past slightly ajar, just enough for the light of the present to shine onto old wounds, letting them heal without needing proof, without needing a price. If you have ever been Maya, or are on your way to becoming a freer version of yourself, leave a comment. No need for names, no need for details, just a single period is enough to say that you're here, that you're alive, that you're standing back up, and that sometimes is already a perfect counterattack.